Hi y'all, how is it going? Day 4 of Empowered Through Pleasure, my yummy free event. Melinda, hi love, how are you today? Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to see you. It's been so great talking with you a little bit. Great to see you back for the next round. Hi, hibiscus and sage. Yes, hearts to you too. Hearts and hearts. How are you, loves, today? Yes, you made it. I'm so excited. Yes, today is going to be super good. Hi, Passion Priestess. Yes, my dear. So good to see you. Hi, Happy Feet Endeavors. Welcome, love. It's so good to see all of you. I'm so excited. Let me know how you're doing, how your day is going. Today's day 4, and like I've said before, please feel free to chat with me, ask me questions, tell me what's on your mind, tell me what's in your heart. I like all those little hearts. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, this is meant to be a time for us to chat, and even though it's on IG Live, it's meant to be a time where we can share our truths and our deep secrets and all of that. And yeah, so happy day, sunshine. Yes, happy day to you too, love. Yeah, so as we go along, type in the chat with each other, chat with me. And I just wanted to say the past 4 days have been so awesome. Like, just talking about pleasure, sexuality, empowerment. It's 9 p.m. in London. That's awesome. It's, yeah, well, 1 p.m. here. But yeah, this is a good way to wind down the day, right? Start the day with pleasure, wind it down the same way. I love that. Hi, M. Naranjo. Welcome, love. We are just getting started here. And so, yeah, we've talked a lot about what the fuck is pleasure? Why do we want it in our lives? Yesterday, we talked about connecting to the body for pleasure and also empowerment. Hi, Co Maelstrom. Welcome, love. How are you doing today? And we talked about yesterday about guilt and how sometimes when we start to speak up and follow our pleasure and take care of ourselves and set boundaries, we can get feelings of guilt. And so we talked a little bit about how to work with that, how to hold our challenging emotions with love. And we talked a little bit about grounding. I led a beautiful grounding practice. And so if you missed that day or any of the other days, you can always go back and check the replay. Absolutely fantastic. Fuck yeah, that's what I like to hear. I love it. And yeah, so today we're going to be diving into, okay, we've talked about pleasure. We've gone on this delicious journey from pleasure into empowerment. So today we're talking about how does pleasure empower us? How can we harness the power and the delicious nourishment of pleasure to fuel our lives, to allow us to follow our dreams, to connect us back with our self-love and our self-confidence, and really step into our full fucking power in the world? So I'm going to be sharing some ways that pleasure has empowered me and ways that I've helped my clients as well. Hi, Ravecation. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you were able to make it today. How are you, love? We're just starting the day off talking about how we're going to get into ways that pleasure can empower us fully. And yeah, if you have ways that you want to contribute that pleasure has empowered you in your life, or that you would like it to empower you in your life, just feel free to share. Yes, hearts, love. So good to see you. So one of the ways that pleasure and following our pleasure can really empower us is it can connect us back with our true self. So when you're in pleasure, you're fully in the moment. The more that you start to give yourself pleasure, and this can be sexual pleasure, but it can be anything, like following your bliss. doing art, massaging yourself, taking a walk in nature, giving yourself an orgasm. All of these are ways that you can be fully present. It's almost like a reset for your whole body when you're in like a moment of pleasure. It's like you almost remember, okay, I should speak for myself. I almost remember like, okay, this is why the fuck we're doing this thing, like this whole life thing. It can get kind of hard. So taking a moment to just really feel into what would give me pleasure and doing that repeatedly can really start to reconnect us with our original essence. And hi, Tatia Roman Coach. Welcome, love. It's so good to see you. We're talking about how pleasure leads to empowerment in our lives. And so when you look at most children, before they've started to absorb all of the messaging from society that says pleasure is bad, you should be guilty. Hi, hello, love. Hi, Waka Shaheen. How are you? Good to see you, love. So when you look at children, they mostly, of course, not all of them, but most of them, they're following their bliss. They're in their pleasure. Sometimes they're touching their genitals, and that's like purely just exploring for their own enjoyment without any stories attached to it. And it expands into their whole life. So you see them laughing super loud, and then they are crying super loud, and they're in the moment, and they're in the full expression of that moment. You see them ripping off their clothes. I used to do this when I was young, and actually would still totally do it if I wouldn't get arrested, but just, ripping off your clothes and running through the park, just like being in the moment. And when you see children, getting ready for the holidays or Christmas or whatever, or their birthday, they ask for what they want. They're like, yeah, I want a fucking pony. I want new toys. I want like a ride to the moon. I want a spaceship. Like they have no idea of like, oh, I can't have that. Oh, I shouldn't ask for that. Oh, that's too much. Hi, Anne. How are you, love? Welcome. Good to see you today. So they're just in their bliss. They're like, I want this. And they believe in magic. They believe that things can just happen. And they believe that they're worthy of it. They believe all of these things until we start to tell them otherwise. Yeah, Brittany says, I loved being naked as a child, and I still do. Same here. Yes, I love being naked, except for when it's cold out. I have to turn up the heat really, really warm because I get cold really easily. But just being naked and being naked outside is so nice. Whenever I get the chance, I go to a nude beach because it's just like, it's so natural. Yes, see, beautiful. Yeah, and yet it's like, this one time, just as a side story, I live in Portland, Oregon, and we have like World Naked Bike Ride. I know they have that other places too, but I've done that, and just like riding naked through the middle of the street, it's like, it feels so good. But even though I'm pretty free in my expression of my body and all of that, there's like this feeling that's like, like within my body that's like, oh, I better, this is not good, but it is good. So yes, be naked. And so, so pleasure can reconnect us with our original essence and get us back in touch with that excitement. And so I'm curious if you all want to feel into this for a second, if you can feel that childlike freedom, that innocence, that excitement. Yes, being naked is amazing, says Melinda. Hi, Emily Emerald. Welcome, love. So if you close your eyes, can you imagine maybe yourself as a child, or maybe a child that you know, and just feel into that feeling in your body right now, that just innocence and celebration of life. And maybe you can, maybe you can't. It's not right or wrong. But I was just curious if you can feel that. What does it feel like in your body? Where do you feel it in your body? What kind of sensations, what kind of emotions. For me, I start to feel almost like these butterflies in my stomach, where it's like these like tingly, like a giggly, bubbly feeling is just kind of like expanding through my upper chest. And yeah, just like lots of energy flowing through. And so the reason I mention that is that can be a really great activity too, is just to tap back into that feeling, that inner child within, and just ask, what does my inner child want to do? What would give her or them or him pleasure? And maybe that's something totally different than what would give your adult self pleasure, but it can be so nourishing as well to check in with that inner child. So another way that pleasure can really empower us in our lives is to serve as an anchor, to serve as I call it a resource, so like an internal safety and nourishment for ourselves. So I've talked about this before, and when you start to follow your truth and you start to express yourself, maybe you show up on IG Live with a crown and a necklace that says sex witch and talk about pleasure, or maybe you quit your job and follow your bliss, or maybe it's in the way of putting boundaries against what you don't want. Maybe it's telling someone to fuck off and no, I don't want that. The more that you become the closer you become to your original essence, and the more you start following your pleasure. Of course, some people will be like, fuck yeah. And then you're going to probably get, yeah, Melinda says, yeah. Exactly. Like there's going to be people and things and parts of society that give you a hard time for that. And you might start getting some pushback the more and more authentic that you are. And this could be external, like I said, like people saying, who do you think you are to be doing this? That's not what people do. That's not what life. People told me that when I quit my corporate job and decided to travel the world for 3.5 years. You're getting some sweet Joseph. I'm not sure what that means. Can you elaborate on that, please, dear? Yeah, so people told me like, what are you doing quitting your job? You have a good job. People don't do that. People get a job and they stay in their job until they retire, and that's life. And I was like, no thanks. But this pushback did make me feel a bit of fear. And so you can get pushback from external sources, or you can also get it from within too, because so often we've internalized these feelings of like, okay, this is what we should do and this is bad and this is good. And so yeah, there are always some of those people, says Anne. Exactly. Oh, Joseph Campbell vibes. Okay, I couldn't, for some reason I couldn't read the lower part of your comment, Fashion Priestess. So okay, now it makes sense. Yeah, totally. Awesome. Joseph Campbell wrote some good stuff about pleasure and about following your bliss and things like that. So yeah, it can be equally, if not more, uncomfortable just to start feeling this pushback from within yourself. Like, okay, I think this is what my intuition is telling me, but I don't know, it feels, yes, awesome. I've heard of Joseph Campbell, but I haven't read any of his stuff, so I'll have to check that out. I love book recommendations and podcast recommendations and all of that. So thank you, love. So yeah, when we start to follow our passion, we start to get like, follow your bliss. Ah, yes, that is such a good, yeah, yes. I love the idea of following your bliss. Exactly. And it's such a like open-ended thing, because our bliss can change over time. And there's so many different ways to follow your bliss, big ways, small ways. So yes, following your bliss and always coming back to that. What gives me bliss? What gives me pleasure in this moment? And so when you start to get, yes, Anne says, my mantra, I love it. Yes, one of my mantras, I have a few. One of them is enjoy every moment. And that's kind of related. It's like, in every moment, where can you find the pleasure, the bliss, and where is it taking you? And one of the other ones that I've been, like, my current one that I keep telling myself is just trust. Trust, 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 trust. I say that to myself like 500 times a day, because it can be easy for the mind to start being like, well, what if this and what if that and blah, blah, blah. And so that's kind of like what I'm talking about when you start to not trust your bliss and your passion, and you start to have fear around, okay, what the fuck am I actually doing here? Going back to your pleasure. If you're an expert on your pleasure and you have a day where you get afraid of the future, or someone tells you, like someone close to you is like, I don't agree with what you're doing and I don't like it and it's freaking me out because I can't do it for myself, so who are you to do it? Then just finding, okay, well, how can I nourish myself today? And maybe it's taking a bath or having an orgasm or writing yourself a love letter. Whatever it is that you need to do in that moment, it can bring you back to balance and like, okay, I remember what I'm doing now. So it can be nourishing. Hi, Ekland. Welcome, love. Good to see you. Talking about the ways that pleasure can empower us in our lives. So can also it can raise our self-esteem and our self-love and our self-confidence. So whatever we do is what we do the most is what we build into a habit. And so if we're constantly like thinking these feelings consciously or unconsciously of like, oh, I don't deserve that, like I'm not good enough for that, I need to just push myself. Hi, Elliot. Welcome. Good to see you here. We're talking about pleasure and empowerment some more. So if we're thinking, yeah, I don't deserve this, then that's gonna really sink into our body. And if instead we start consciously taking time to give ourselves pleasure, that's going to be what starts to wire into our brains. So if we start to see ourselves as these beautiful, magical goddesses and gods and beings and creatures and queens and kings who are the most deserving of all the pleasure, and we start to worship ourselves as these pleasure goddesses or people or beings, then we're going to start feeling like, fuck yeah, I'm worthy of pleasure. And like the more that I do that, the more that, hi Adele Bathory, welcome. We're talking about pleasure and empowerment. So yeah, the more that I do that, the more my body starts to crave pleasure. And if I go for a few days without my pleasure practices, my body's like, excuse me, I'm a pleasure slut now and I need pleasure. So can you give that to me, please? And another thing related to that is, so often we think of pleasure as a reward. And this is wired into us from a very young age. It's like, okay, finish your broccoli and you can have dessert or whatever. And so often I, in the past, have held off on allowing myself pleasure of any sort until, I do the thing first. So yeah, I'll be happy and I'll allow myself to have a vacation after I've made this much money. Hi, Aware Elsewhere. How you doing, babe? Great to see you. And so the idea of switching that around in your mind from pleasure as a reward and denial of pleasure until you do love yeah, I do love broccoli too. If you find pleasure in the broccoli as well, then even better. Hi Hossein Nadimi, welcome. Yeah, that's another part of it is really enjoying the journey. Like we said, like, yeah, following your bliss, but taking pleasure along the way. And instead of using pleasure as this reward, use it as nourishment, use it as fuel. Be like, okay, I have a big day, I have a hard day, I have to get through these things. So why not start with a full tank? Why not start by offering myself pleasure and then going into my day fully nourished? So that's been something that's super helpful for me. Once you start to offer yourself pleasure and feel worthy of that, the more you do that, in my experience, the more that I start to feel worthy of not just pleasure, but everything. So I start getting out of my own way. I start getting past this, like, oh, there's always going to be someone more worthy, and, I guess I kind of want a lot, and, I don't know if I should really ask for that. Passion Priestess says, love it. Yeah. So it starts becoming like, why don't I deserve that? Like, I'm just as deserving as anyone else. So you start to, yeah, really get out of your own way and be like, okay, what are my dreams? What are my desires? And how can I empower myself even more to keep moving towards those desires more and more? So that's another way that pleasure can be super empowering in our lives. Another thing I wanted to mention is it's so empowering for us in our sex lives and our relationships to be in charge or take charge of our own pleasure. And so I know in the past, I've gone into relationships or sexual encounters really expecting the other person to be responsible for my pleasure. And so really that's disempowering. So it's like, if you go into a relationship, I've heard people say, and I've felt myself in the past think, I'm so unhappy, I want to be in a relationship and then I'll be happy and this person will give me love and then I'll feel pleasure and I'll feel bliss. And yeah, relationships can be such a source of bliss and pleasure. And at the same time, what if you go into that relationship already full and already knowing, okay, so I know how to give myself pleasure, I know how to give myself self-care, I know what I like, and then you can teach the other person how to do the same for you. Hi, Women's Health, welcome, good to see you here. Talking about empowerment and pleasure, getting empowered through our pleasure. And so this is really helpful inside and outside the bedroom. So I, in the past, have gone into sex, like hookups, or started a new relationship. Hi, Planet Laura. Welcome, love. And, I go into this sexual encounter like, I need pleasure. I'm horny. And, looking at this new person, like, are they going to know how to please me? Are they going to magically know, like, all the right buttons to push so that I can have pleasure? And hey, Laura, how you doing today, love? Welcome. So excited to see all of you here. So it really takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. It's kind of a crapshoot if you're hooking up with people or having sex with people and you're like trying to look on Tinder or whatever you like to do, and like, does he look like he could find that one particular spot in the left side of my vagina that really drives me crazy? I hope so. Hi, Star Tribe, welcome. How you doing? And so if you've taken time to find what gives you pleasure, whether it's giving yourself massages, like sounds pretty good right now. Whether it's giving yourself massages or whether it's giving yourself orgasms, then you can go into your partnership or your sexual relationship of any kind knowing, and then you can tell your partner, like, this is my love language, this is how I give myself love, and this is how you can give me love, and this is what I like in bed. And it's just a really empowering feeling to be able to just to have that for yourself and then bring it into your partnerships and your friendships even as well. Hi, Lotus Flower. How are you, love? And this extends out. It's so helpful in all parts of the relationship. So once we are connecting with our partner, hi, good to see you. Once we're connecting with our partner honestly and teaching them how to give us pleasure and fulfillment in the relationship, we're gonna, if they're giving us pleasure and we're so satisfied, then chances are we're gonna want to give them pleasure back. And so they're gonna be more satisfied. We're gonna be connecting on this deep level where instead of holding back and being unsure and or being too clingy, it's kind of like this in between equilibrium gets met, and we get to connect more deeply. And there's also, we drop the resentment piece. So that was a big thing for me in my past relationships, where I didn't even know what I wanted, but I knew that I wanted something, and I didn't ask for it because, number one, I didn't know what it was, and number two, I was afraid to communicate, and I wasn't empowered within myself to do that. And so I would just be like, why does my partner not love me? If he did, he would know he'd just magically know, right? So like, clearly he hates me and he's a bad partner. And I would just be like simmering in this resentment. So it's nice when you can just let that shit go as well. And so this is just an invitation to really consider, what would my life be like if I allowed myself to fully step into my power? And I find that so often, like, this happened to me for years, and it's still something I'm working through, is like being afraid of my own power more so than, oh, I'm afraid I'm not powerful enough. It's like, whoa, there's a lot of power there, and we all have that. And so who would you be? What could you be? What would your life be like if you were able to empower yourself through pleasure and get the fuck out of your way so you could step into your full brilliance? That's something to really consider. Hi, profile A02. How are you? And so keeping this in mind, and feel free to, like I said, share in the chat. Don't be shy. If you have any questions, or if you have any experiences from your own life that you want to share, or any comments about how this is landing with you, anything that it's kind of bringing up for you, I'm so open for that. These are things that I love to talk about. And I wanted to invite you all into a kind of easy, quick embodiment visionary practice. And for those of you who were here on the first day, we did a similar one, really envisioning our full pleasure goddess or creature or being or whatever we resonate with. And so today I want to invite you into this practice around visualizing ourselves in our full power. And this could be your full sexual empowerment, or it could be another area of your life that you're really wanting to empower yourself, or it could just be your life overall. And the reason behind this visionary practice is that when we imagine things and when we envision things, there's parts of our brain that don't really see the difference between this envisioning and it actually happening in our life. So the more that we envision ourselves in our full power and really see that using all five senses in as much detail as we can, the more that it literally starts to signal to your subconscious brain, okay, this is safe, this is possible. And not to say that you don't have to also do external steps in your life, but this is so important to do the work to rewire your brain around this. And so for this practice, you can close your eyes if you'd like, and just taking a couple moments to just take deep breaths. Dropping into your body, allowing yourself to be present in this moment. Breathing deep into the lower belly and just seeing what's alive in your body right now. Beginning to bring to mind a beautiful vision of yourself living your most empowered life, being your fully embodied goddess or god or royalty or being of empowerment through pleasure. And within this vision, awakening, opening your eyes in this vision and looking around yourself at this life you've created and noticing, what do you see around yourself now that you're fully living your life, fully empowered? Noticing, what have you created? Where are you? What's around you? Yes, pleasure, creature of bliss. Yeah, I love that. Feeling your pleasure, creature of bliss, and noticing now, what do you hear around you in this vision? What are people saying to you? What are you saying? What sounds do you feel and hear around yourself? Dropping deeper into this vision of pleasure and empowerment, and noticing now, what do you feel? So what are you touching? What is touching you? And what sensations do you feel? And what emotions do you feel now that you are fully living your most empowered life? Noticing now, what might you smell? So maybe it's a perfume or an incense, maybe it's a smell of nature, or really just noticing what comes to you. What are you smelling in this reality? And what might you be tasting? What kind of foods would you choose to nourish yourself with? Maybe you're tasting the body of another person in empowered lovemaking. Maybe you're just tasting the sweet taste of freedom and success. Noticing that. Welcome, Sterling Mallory Archer. Welcome, Lara Kirsten. We're envisioning our most empowered life. So really feeling into this vision, using all five senses, dropping in, breathing into it, feeling it within yourself, seeing, noticing if there's anything else you see, breathing into that. And now noticing, as you stay with this beautiful vision of empowerment in your life, where do you feel this within your body? What are you noticing within your body when you feel into this? And noticing what part of yourself comes alive the most. Maybe you feel tingling or excitement. Maybe you feel like you're sitting up straighter. Maybe your heart feels open. Maybe your throat center is throbbing and warm. just really noticing what part of you gets the most excited when you feel into this pleasure and this empowerment. And starting to feel this part of you, these sensations within yourself, as a living part of your consciousness that is already at this level, this pleasure creature of bliss, this empowered goddess, this king of empowerment through pleasure, whatever you feel for yourself, noticing that identity is within you already. Breathing into that part of yourself where you feel this identity. And noticing if you get any additional kind of hits on this part of yourself. Maybe you start to vision something, like maybe you see yourself or someone from your life. Maybe you see colors. Maybe it reminds you of something from nature, a tornado, an ocean. What is this part of yourself that is the most empowered? What does it remind you of? And just feeling that part of yourself, breathing into it, feeling that with every breath, you empower this part of yourself even more. And knowing that you can connect with this part of yourself over and over to empower yourself even more fully, even more deeply. If you want to give it a name, if you haven't, go ahead and do so, and maybe make a commitment if it feels right to you, to reconnect with this part of yourself whenever needed, before you're doing something that you need empowerment. Maybe before you make any important decision this week, you can commit to connecting with this powerful part of yourself and letting that part of yourself say, I've fucking got this. We've got this. And so just breathing into that. When you're ready, you can open your eyes, coming back to this moment. I'd love to hear, how was that for you? What did you notice? What was the name of your inner empowered identity? Where do you feel it within your body? It's so interesting because I was actually, I had planned to do this in advance, and today I actually, I'm trading coaching sessions with another empowerment and sexuality coach, and we did a session where I envisioned this powerful part of myself, and I felt it starting in my first chakra and my pussy, and really flowing all the way up through my spine, through my chakras, opening my chest, straightening my whole head. And it was just like this buzzing energy of like, and then I saw it in front of me as this beautiful figure, this feminine figure, glowing white and gold light and just pure energy. So that was mine, and I called her the Empowered Priestess. And hearts to you too, love. Yeah, so if you're still processing that, you can tell me later too. You can comment on the replay, or you can message me and let me know how that was for you. You can share in the chat so everyone else can learn from you as well. And I have one more super exciting thing to share with you all. So I set my intention that in January, I was going to be taking on 6 new one-on-one coaching clients for sexual empowerment. And 3 of my coaching spots have already filled up. Yellow light of creativity. I love that. Yes, yellow light of creativity within your body. You can reconnect to that anytime. Really start to feed that light. Let it awaken and brighten within yourself. So yeah, I'm still looking for 3 more one-on-one coaching clients here in January. And right now I'm working with women only. And I'm looking for 3 women who are ready to step into their full fucking empowerment in and outside the bedroom, within their sexuality and within their life in general. Those of you who are interested, that would be someone who really wants to feel into the energy of their pussy, the energy of their sexuality, and really begin to brighten that light out, expand it through their full body. If you're looking for more empowerment within your relationships, if you're wanting to connect deeper with your partner, if you're wanting to find out what actually gives me pleasure, what gives me an orgasm, what could give me a full body orgasm, if you're wanting to discover more about your own pleasure and also communicate that to your partners, if you're wanting to release sexual shame and release guilt around asking for what you want and asking for your pleasure, these are all things that I work with. If you feel like there's these stories that from childhood or young adulthood around what your sexuality is supposed to be like, what your pleasure is supposed to be like, what your body is supposed to look like or feel like, and you're fucking done with that shit, and you're wanting to recreate your own sexual story. Hi, Duke. How are you, love? Good to see you. Then that is the kind of client that I'm looking for. And I'm telling you this in case maybe you are the one that I'm looking for and you're like, this is sounding pretty good. Or maybe you have someone in mind in your life who you feel like is ready to take this step. The work that I do, it's less talk-based coach or talk-based therapy. We do, of course, talk, and we start by finding out what your true desires are and getting super clear on those. And then it's a lot more about dropping into the body. So feeling into the sensations, doing breath work, doing practices like I've begun to share with you here. Of course, we can not go quite as deep on IG Live, but doing practices around meditation and really feeling into these deep blockages within the subconscious that are hard to just like be like, oh, I think that's the problem. Like sometimes you have an idea and sometimes it's something that you never even realize until you start to really feel into it. And so it's a lot more about embodiment. I'm also a breathwork practitioner, so I love to get people into breathwork or expand their breathwork practices and really help you tap into that sexual life force energy that is resting within your body. So full of potential, so full of juicy pleasure, and so ready to just be expanded outwards through your body into your life. And so, yeah, if you have questions, my DMs are always open, first off. I offer free 1-hour calls. And these calls are, even if you decide that you're not ready or interested in moving forward with a full coaching package, the call in and of itself is super powerful and very helpful. We start by getting super clear on what your goals and desires are, because a lot of times when people, hi Oliver's Mind, welcome. A lot of times when people are thinking about change and what they want to change in their lives, they think about what they don't want. And so this is about, what do you actually want? That's the first step in moving towards your desires. And then I'll take you through a visionary practice similar to what we did today, specifically around your goal. And we'll also start to feel into what some of the potential blockages might be. So things within your subconscious, limiting beliefs, limiting stories. We'll start to feel for what those might be. And then we'll talk more about my coaching package. I'll tell you the logistics there. I'll tell you the pricing. We can also talk about all the logistics and the DMs too. So either way is a great way for you to connect with me. So if you're feeling called to explore this more, now is the time. I'm feeling like since 3 of my spots are already filled, and this is the first time I've actually talked about this on on IG Live or on IG, that they're probably going to fill up pretty quick. So this would be a good time to start the conversation with me and let me know if you have any questions about any of this. Yeah. Love to you all. I'm so thankful that you came to my event. Tomorrow is going to be day 5. So tomorrow we're going to be doing another breathwork journey. So it's going to be a bit less chatting and a little bit more embodiment. So we'll be connecting with that sexual life force energy that I've been discussing and talking about with you, which is there in our first chakra and in our pussy and in our genitals, and really starting to, with our intention and our breath, bring that and invite that energy up through the body, bringing it up through each of the chakras, infusing that energy with all of the different qualities of the chakras, and really starting to harness that energy for our full empowerment and our full pleasure. Oh, thank you so much, Passion Priestess. It's so good to see you here. And yes, your delicious yellow light of creativity and pleasure creature. Pleasure creature, I love that. Yeah, so if anybody else has any questions, let me know right now. Don't be shy. Or just anything you want to say, how you're feeling right now, what's alive for you right now. Please let me know. Merci. You are so welcome, Anne. Thank you for spending your time with me. I'll be posting this replay, of course, so you can run back through it, or you can share it with anyone that you feel would be a good fit. And yeah, see if you can commit to really checking in with that delicious, empowered part of yourself on a regular basis. You're so welcome, Hibiscus and Sage. This was a fun day to just chat about all the ways that pleasure has empowered my life. And yeah, if you want to send me a DM or comments and let me know once you think about it, how has pleasure empowered your life? And yeah, I'd love to hear more about that. Hi, Hunawai, welcome. Been chatting about how pleasure empowers us in our lives and counting all the ways. And yeah, if you're wanting to check out the full conversation, you can check out the replay. Yes. Sometimes it's so hard to go. I just want to hang out with you guys all day and talk about pleasure. Like, no, you hang up. I don't want to do it. Yes, be gentle with yourselves today and drink lots of water. Follow your bliss. And I will see you back here tomorrow. Oh yes, main question, how to overcome religious thinking about pleasure, about self. Yeah, so that is a big one, and that's one of those things that a lot of times is pushed into us from the time when we're really young and is super, super strong, because a lot of times we learn about that from our families and our parents tell us. Yeah, that's a whole conversation. Yeah, one thing I'll say about that is that what I was talking about in terms of getting in touch with our subconscious through our sensations is so helpful for that, because sometimes when we grow up religious and then we kind of move past some of those beliefs with our cognitive mind. So sometimes we think, okay, I know that I'm not going to hell if I have an orgasm or if I self-pleasure. So we know it cognitively, but sometimes our subconscious is still giving those danger signals. And so that's where it is kind of a deep process and hard for me to explain how you might do it by yourself. It's something that I definitely work with my clients on. Would be really going in and talking to those parts of yourself, your inner child, those that young person who's afraid within yourself, and really finding out what they need, finding out ways that we can reparent them and offer them support. And one thing that I will say as kind of a beginning step that you can take is when you start to feel that religious conditioning coming up, maybe it's, guilt or fear, just starting to really acknowledge that guilt and fear, and seeing if you can find some acceptance and some love for that part of yourself, seeing as how would it not be afraid after what it's learned and received, and the fear and the guilt, and just starting to hold those sensations with love and acceptance. And I can't remember if you were here yesterday, but we did talk more about guilt and some ways to hold guilt and heal guilt and work with that. And so if you didn't catch that part of yesterday, you can go back and watch the replay on that. And if you have other questions, yes, guilt. It's so heavy. Yeah, it's a whole thing. And it's something that I've healed a bit of my programming around that, but okay, yeah, you weren't here yesterday. So yeah, check the one from yesterday out. And yeah, it's something that I come back to around working with that with myself too. So it's a journey. And yeah, so check out yesterday's call and let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you have any other questions. You can also DM me and we can chat about it more too. So, all right, my loves, unless there's anything else y'all want to say while you have my full attention. Definitely will. Yes. So much love to you too, my dear. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you all soon. All right. Goodbye.